Dear Lighthouse, welcome back to our lunchtime devotion. Have there been chapters of your life where you felt misunderstood, sidelined, rejected, and even ridiculed, so much so that you felt like God had forgotten you? Well, if you return with me to 1 Samuel chapter 1, you'll realize that Hannah went through something similar. We all would know that Hannah was barren, not able to have a child for many years. While some of us may think that this is just a physical deficiency that had struck Hannah, this was not how it was perceived in those days. In those times, if a woman was barren, it was devastating. They were thought of as being punished by God for their sinfulness. With Hannah being barren for so many years, she would have been mistakenly viewed as a really sinful woman. Neighbors and friends would be talking behind her back, sidelining and rejecting her. To top this off, her rival Penina, who had several children of her own, was outrightly provoking Hannah year after year. Hannah would be weeping and would not eat each year as they went up to the house of the Lord to worship and pray. Hannah was suffering from shame, social rejection, a damaged self-esteem, and constant ridicule. Although her name actually meant grace or favor, Hannah felt forgotten by God. What did Hannah do in response to all this? Well, Hannah went to the Lord in what I would call honest prayer. Hannah prayed to God from her heart and was honest with the Lord about her emotions and her thoughts. In 1 Samuel chapter 1 verse 10, we read that in bitterness of soul, Hannah wept much and prayed to the Lord. In verse 11, Hannah cried out to the Lord, "O Lord Almighty, if you will only look upon your servant's misery and remember me and not forget your servant, but give her a son." When Eli the priest saw her mumbling to herself and thought that she was drunk, Hannah told Eli that she was not drunk, but merely pouring out her soul to the Lord and praying out of her great anguish and grief. What happened after Hannah's honest prayer to the Lord? We read in verse 18 that Hannah went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. Something happened. Year after year, she wept and could not eat. But this year, it was different after her honest prayer to the Lord. Why is this so? Were her circumstances different? No. Did God give her any answers or specific promise that she would have a child at that point? Not that we know of. I believe that in Hannah's honest prayer to God, she encountered the living God who comforted him with his love and assured her of his presence and providence. Because of this honest exchange she had with God, she was now at peace on the inside. She believed God and trusted him for his plans for her, regardless of whether her request was granted or not. Her faith gave her that joy, and through that encounter, she knew that she was not forgotten by God. Her face was no longer downcast. Is Hannah's story just for women who are barren? No. I believe this story is relevant for all of us because we too experience barrenness of a different sort in our lives and our times today. Barren of success and recognition in our jobs, barren of meaning and significance in our lives, barren of joy and peace in our hearts, barren of hope for our future. What do we do in such times? Well, like Hannah, go to the Lord in honest prayer. King David did this in the Psalms. Job did it too. They were in no way showing irreverence to God. They were just being real. As we will observe in the Psalms, King David would start off with a psalm saying how fearful and desperate he was, but he often ends it with a strong statement of trust in the Lord for deliverance. I believe we can be honest with God about our emotions and thoughts as long as we go right on into faith after pouring out our soul to the Lord. This is what God wants from us. In Hebrews chapter 4 verse 15 to 16, he tells us, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way just as we are, yet he did not sin. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. My friends, Jesus knows, Jesus cares, Jesus empathizes. If you're struggling in your life right now, would you come with confidence to Jesus today in honest prayer? Because as you do so, the Bible tells us that you will receive God's mercy and find His grace to help you in your time of need. God bless you.